Audrey Joy Tan. I am an entrepreneur, and my first vocation is being a child of God. I'm also a wife to my husband Gerald, and my personal vocation that God has called me to is really to be an entrepreneur in the world. I do this in a few ways. The first is to enable young people, children and families to learn about positive financial emotional resilience in their life so that they can be good stewards of the resources that God has given them. And I also do work in technology with Circles of Angels. We enable social entrepreneurs to get access to support that they need through impact tracking as well as through support in financing. For me, I would say that the Lord has planted the seeds of entrepreneurship since I was a young person. As a child, I always thought that perhaps I could be a teacher, an archaeologist, and even a businesswoman, and never really recognizing that these were the seeds that God had planted in me since I was really young. The joy of entrepreneurship comes also in the active joy of creating. When you see a challenge or a problem that exists in the world, and you responding to the world's challenge through your own ingenuity, creativity, and co-creation with the Holy Spirit, then there is an opportunity for the human person and the human identity to come alive. As a young child as well, I just felt this sense of creative, work that would happen with my brothers when we would play pretend at home as well. When we would buy stuff and we would sell stuff at home. And for young people who are wondering what you might be called in, going back into your childhood to see this inner stirring since we're young will also give us a clue as to what we may come most alive with. One of the things that really struck me as a young person was an encounter in a slum community in Indonesia. So this really set a very deep seed in my heart. I was there and I saw visibly for the very first time in my life what poverty actually looked like with children who were really struggling with having not enough to eat and not having access to school and a dignified livelihood. And in Christi Fidelis Laci, it's also said that the human person is meant to be at the center of all socio-economic activity, that the human dignity of a person is really what is the most important thing as a human being. And it was really the first time that I saw what poverty actually looked like. And I describe it actually as walking in hell. And I had never seen anything like that as a young person coming back from overseas. I felt like the Lord really showed me His people, and He showed me another side of His people that we here do not often see. That mission and stewardship was really not just for people here in this part of the world. And the stewardship was really not just about money or knowledge or talent, but economic stewardship in a way that would benefit His people, especially for His people who were suffering. And in the world of social entrepreneurship, we could begin to rethink new models and new economic models that would eventually be able to benefit people who were actually struggling in poverty. And so that really marked one of the first transition for me in my own career. It was a very critical time in my own journey as an entrepreneur because I had started Playmula. So with our work, we see that there is 8 forms of capital in society today. Sometimes when we think about financial success or wealth, and we begin to rethink these 8 forms of capital, suddenly, life is holistic. Realizing that we may sometimes be struggling with our emotions, or we may be spiritually poor. In a consumeristic society like Singapore, I kind of realized that we've been told to want things that we never knew we wanted. And I think this sense of discernment of, what we need and what we want and what is enough, and a sense of contentment really kind of shook me at the very core of it, that I realized that there was mission to be done here, to rethink the notions of wealth, to rethink what joy and being fully alive actually meant. How do we order our lives in a way that would be in communion with God? And when I think about holiness as what Jose Maria says, he says that sanctification of your work can actually happen in the ordinary days of our lives, and that the little things that we do in our work can be offered up as an offering, as prayer to the Lord. And for me, that was quite mind-blowing, because I felt that the Lord was telling me in my own journey that my mission was to be with His people also in this part of the world, opening my eyes to different kinds of poverty. And when we think about spiritual capital, thinking also about how we can be also in line with the will of God for a flourishing life. I've also kind of realized that I think I know myself, but actually the Lord knows me much better than I know myself. And initially thinking that I was called to be a missionary in the fields, but actually that wasn't really His call, that actually I was a more effective missionary behind the computer. And being able to then steward my gifts and talents in His service for His people through the work that we're doing at Plain Mula, where we use technology, where we use videos and teaching and educational materials to empower our young people so that they can build a good relationship to money and to order their relationship with money so that they can be in communion with God. Yeah, I would say that the journey of entrepreneurship really, to be very honest, hasn't been an easy one. And the journey of entrepreneurship has evolved, and the mission has continued to evolve as well. That initially just starting with teaching kids, young people about money through Plain Mula has now also evolved to a sense where we are giving this sense of how to create a flourishing life to families, that we would evolve the mission beyond just, children, youth or young people, but to see it really as a whole, as a family, a more integrated kind of approach. Yeah, and I guess it's through a lot of experimentation too. It's a constant surrender and reminder each day to, like what Mother Mary says, right? Do whatever He tells you. So it's that constant journey of do whatever He tells you, and it's still unfolding. And yeah, I thank God for all the gifts that He's given us, and I realize that, our life and everything that we have is really a gift, and that it's really through God's grace that anything and everything can happen.